Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Holy shnikes, we're here once again, coming at you on a Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, or 5 p.m. Mountain in Derek's case.
Yes, yeah.
Yay. Yeah, the smart people. Just kidding.
Smart people that got rid of
No, it's the
daylight
biggest headache
saving.
ever. It's the biggest headache. If everybody
Yeah.
did it, it would be cool. No.
Yeah.
Get it out of here.
Yeah. So welcome all four of you that I see are viewing and tuning in right now. As you can see with Derek's screen, we are going to be talking about Tommy Boy, the 90s classic comedy, straight comedy, which you just don't see nowadays. So that's why I consider it a classic. I don't know about you fellas.
Absolutely.
Gone are the days where you can just have a comedy and it's put into theaters. So we can definitely talk about that down the road. Other than that, what's up, fellas? How you doing, Brad? What's new with you?
Just living the dream. Just working a lot. Past couple weeks have been crazy, but gonna start reviewing. For those that are aware of a channel called Audioholics, a web publication, I'm gonna start reviewing stuff for them. Not stopping doing anything on my channel, but this is just additional things I'm doing for them. So that's exciting. Got some stuff in for review. I don't really want to talk about it here, but whatever,
Yeah.
That implies that there's a rehab for those people too.
Yeah, for all of those people, all the audioholics.
Hi, my name is Brad. Hi, Brad.
Yeah, and I'm I'm still an audioholic. I can't stop calibrating.
I'm a cinemaholic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, there's two different things going on in there, but Derek, how the hell are you doing?
I'm doing fantastically. Good to be alive. Happy to be here.
Woo! That's so great, Brad.
How about you, Elin?
But I understand this is probably going to be the first of many reviews for Audioholics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, this is kind of kickstarting the thing that kind of happened into this. I mean, it's no secret what I'm reviewing. It's not like top secret stuff. It's just like some audio gear, I just I'm being very, very vague, but it's some Marantz stuff. So that should be fun. And but yeah, this is just kind of start of a bigger relationship with Audioholics, I guess you could call it. But yeah, I've been shooting videos and editing for them for a while. With Gene being the star. I mean, you may have seen me in some of their videos if you watch them, but yeah, this is going to be my first kind of full review. I'm also doing a short kind of write-up of it for their website. So
nice. Yeah,
spread my wings a little bit, just kind of get my name out there a little more. So I'm just like, how the hell did I get here? Honestly, like, I don't know. I'm still like winging. I feel like I'm winging it sometimes. I'm like, you want to send me these cables?
Dude, that is all that every adult on the planet is just winging it. So at least that's what I've come to the conclusion of in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I feel knowledgeable. We could talk about Dirac art later if you want to, and how I hate that crap. But I don't hate it. I don't hate it. But no, yeah, I've learning things, and that's always important in this hobby because it can get a little stale, as you know. And I know that we're talking about movies and stuff, but yeah, I mean, any type of hobby, if you're not learning new stuff every once in a while, at least it could just kind of be boring, And I always like learning new stuff, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yay. Excellent. Derek, I understand you watched the commentary of this morning.
Yes. So I mean, like I said, I think I said it for Lord of the Rings too, but anytime that I'm trying to review a movie, I typically watch it once just as it is, because I like to let the movie speak for itself first. and then I kind of come up with some notes and impressions, and then I like to watch them with the commentary because I like the filmmakers to also kind of speak for the movie and give me, either little hints and trivia and tips or whatever, or just some insight into production. And like, a lot of people, like with Lord of the Rings, there's obviously a ton of production because it's a epic, saga, and there's a bunch of stuff going on. But even for a movie like Tommy Boy, there's so much fun production stuff that happens or that, went into the movie that you don't really know about if you're just watching the film, and you can't really like glean some of those things. So I like listening to the creatives. If I can, I'll try to listen to, some movies have multiple commentaries from people. So I'll even watch the movie multiple times with the different commentaries. But at the very least, I always want to listen to the director's commentary, because since they're kind of the, captain of the ship, as it were, I think they typically have kind of the most all-encompassing view of that. So yes, I did watch that this morning. Also, fun fact, my wife sent me a Facebook post from exactly 16 years today. She watched Tommy Boy today. To the day. She watched Tommy Boy today.
Wow.
And, yeah, she must have seen it like a billion times because her sister commented on it and was like, wait, what, again? So that's one of the things that I want to try to do when we talk about this, because I feel like I saw this so much when I was younger that watching it this past weekend and then again today with the commentary, I want to try to look at the movie without my nostalgia lenses, because I feel like a lot of what I enjoy about the movie is the memories and the laughs that, I've heard for hundreds and hundreds of times, and now just seeing like as an adult, as a brand new watcher, maybe with some fresh eyes, do I still think it's as funny and as good as it was before? And I think in a lot of ways it very much is, but it doesn't surprise me that it didn't do that well critically, and that it didn't really pick up until after the release on home video. Right. So I'm excited to talk about it. I think there's a lot to dive into.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, Brad, what were your kind of first impressions watching it all over again after also having watched it a million times before, when you were a lot younger?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like visiting an old friend that, while not perfect, I still think that it just holds up so well. You could see the chemistry between Spade and Farley in this, and Black Sheep, but like more so in this. And like I didn't know that there was a lot of kind of behind the scenes drama between those two, like on the set, and
physical fist fights.
Yes, yeah, I didn't know any of that. And yeah, but it overall, I mean, there are some parts in it, like I love Rob Lowe in the movie, but there are parts in particular he really like, and this is probably a direction he got, but like really like hones in on the slapstick side of comedy, to the point where like it's so over the top that it's almost like a joke in and of itself. Like, I mean, obviously there's spoilers in this, so like the whole thing at the end of the movie where he gets hit in the crotch with the thing, and he just makes his face, and it's just like the idiot face that he makes. I'm just like, it works, but at the same time I'm like, God, I love that. And I say that all the time, by the way. I just always quote Wayne Zelinsky, who I often will call Ray Zelinsky from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, because I always got him confused. Like when I was younger, I was like, are they related? No.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think it holds up really well. And something I always like to do when I'm watching movies like this, because I think we're all, am I correct in assuming that we're all in like our 40s?
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
So what blows my mind is looking at the age of some of these, like Bo Derek. It was 38 when they filmed this.
Yeah.
38. Like, to me, she looks like she's in her late 40s in this movie.
My wife said the same thing.
Yeah. I also read like her husband made her cut her hair before they started filming because he was very jealous, which I'm just like, screw that guy. But yeah, I think overall it holds up really well. I mean, I love Brian Dennehy. going back to like FX and even 10, which he was in briefly. Anyway, there's a lot of great like characters in this too. I mean, obviously Dan Aykroyd, really hams it up. He only shot his stuff for like 2 days. Like they flew him in for 2 days. I mean, just so many iconic scenes and quotable scenes in the movie. Between this, I made the joke before we started that I watched Dumb and Dumber instead on accident. But like between this and Dumb and Dumber, like I probably quote those movies more than most other movies. Like I'll say Son of a, That's Gonna Leave a Mark all the time. And just stuff from Dumb and Dumber as well. But yeah, there's just so much in this. Totally unrealistic, right? Like in many aspects, but it's a comedy. I don't really think it's supposed to be realistic. It's supposed to be effective at being a comedy. And man, talk about someone like gone way too soon.
Sirloin just said that in the comments. Chris Farley passed away too early. Agreed wholeheartedly.
He's he was a massive talent, and I think that if he didn't go out the way he did, because I know he had addiction problems and everything, and it's sad when someone basically dies of an overdose, because it's like, oh man, this could have been prevented. I mean, I think addiction was part of his problem. Reading trivia about this and the things that were going on, I'm like, he definitely had a lot of stuff going on in his brain. And but yeah, I always think about him, because I'm like, what we saw Jim Carrey transition from kind of slapstick Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, to more serious roles, and I think that if he were still alive, that he could have transitioned into more dramatic stuff.
Definitely.
He definitely had it. I mean, same with Robin Williams. We saw him go from like just being this hilarious funny man to all of a sudden he's in these like dramatic roles. I mean, I remember watching 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams being like, what the hell did I just watch? That's not Hook, that's not Mrs. Wildfire. What the heck? But he talk about range, even like Good Will Hunting. So yeah, I think Tommy Boy though holds up extremely well. I tried to also, like Derek said, watch it without my kind of rose tinted nostalgia goggles on, and I mean, there's some scenes that probably definitely aren't like politically correct or whatever, but at the same time, I mean, this is like the 90s. Okay, like don't re-edit it. It's just gonna live and be what it's gonna be. Yeah, there's a lot of like really just funny things. I just want to know what kind of airplane they were on going to Chicago. And I've never seen an airplane like that in my life. That's a total like film prop airplane. It's like, how many seats? Like you have 3.
Yeah, the inside doesn't match the outside of the plane either.
Yeah. Also, I think about the scene of him, and I know I'm like probably jumping ahead a little bit, but the scene of of Tommy changing in the plane bathroom. And the one specific overhead shot of him like struggling with his arm, and he's like this. I think about that. It just stuck in my head. Like right when it comes up, it's just I like start howling laughing, because it's so funny, so funny.
Yeah, that scene especially on the commentary. Actually, Peter Segal, like he goes quiet during that part, and it's just laughter. Like he's laughing at his own movie, because that scene is so freaking funny. It just comes out of nowhere. And especially like right before that, when David Spade goes into the bathroom and then comes out like 2 seconds later. Like that little Texas switch or whatever they did with the stuntman. That whole thing bookended by that is really great.
Yeah. Well, I love how Tommy reacts to that. Like he is the audience in that moment, because he's like, what just happened? Like you were in there for like 2 seconds. He's like, that was just yeah.
And actually you nailed you said something earlier about like how Rob Lowe's scenes were a little like over the top and stuff. They refer to those as the Wile E. Coyote scenes, which I love, because that's like exactly like the scene with the dog where he's trying to shoot the gun, and then apparently they filmed a bunch of those scenes, and it was Rob Lowe's idea that he wanted to have like all these different scenes where he tries to like sabotage the company in various ways, and they basically tried to complement each one of his ideas with a physical idea that would make him look silly. So like the shirt getting ripped off in the pneumatic tube or whatever, like that was one of the Wile E. Coyote scenes. Apparently they filmed one where he tries to let the air out of the tires in all the trucks, and then they filmed a couple of these scenes or whatever, but every single one of them was just meant to make him look completely silly, completely stupid, and they called them the Wile E. Coyote scenes.
That's pretty awesome. I also like that he's not credited in the movie.
Yeah.
I read about that. You could probably
at all.
At all. No,
he wanted it to be a surprise.
Yeah, that was at his request. Like he didn't want to be, because originally the movie was about he was going to play Tommy's brother, and they were going to go on this trip together, and then they rewrote.
Oh my God! Could you imagine that?
Oh man.
Instead of David Spade? Wow.
Yeah. Well, just because like Brad was saying, the dynamic between David Spade and Chris Farley is really that camaraderie from SNL. Could you imagine if it was Rob Lowe instead? We wouldn't be talking about it, I don't think. And I say that as somebody who loves, like absolutely adores Rob Lowe, but I don't think we'd be talking about the movie the same way.
No, the vibe would be polar opposite.
Yeah.
Wow.
It would have been a serious film.
Yeah. I mean, kind of going along that line of like, what if scenarios, if Chris Farley hadn't have died, and yeah, I could totally have seen, because that's actually what hit me. One of the things I wanted to talk about was when I watched it earlier today, like it really kind of, looking at it with adult eyes, and really trying to get down to more of like a critical look at it, like it really kind of hit me like how well the dinghy scene in particular, when he's right after the funeral and he's talking about how he misses his dad, like there's some genuine like hurt in his face, in his eyes, in his demeanor.
Eric knows. He knows he's about to go into it. I could tell.
I'm a production nerd, so I love all that stuff. He literally was poking himself in the eyes before that scene.
No way.
Yes, and they had to refilm it because they lost the footage. The lab that was developing the film had some kind of accident, and that whole reel apparently was destroyed with that scene on it. So they had to go back out on the water and he had to poke himself in the eyes again.
No way.
Yeah. I think the director was like freaked out by it, right? Like he was like, but whatever works. Like he's like, okay, that's crazy,
dude.
But yeah, I had the same reaction until it was effective because like I believe like he wasn't like, tears weren't streaming down his face, but like he like looked like he was tearing up, and I didn't know at the time, I looked at the trivia after I watched the movie. And I was like, oh, okay. But it still worked because I was like the director said, whatever works, like, okay, it's freaking me the hell out. But
I mean, just to kind of parallel another SNL alum, I could definitely see Chris Farley having a career like Adam Sandler.
Yeah. Well, that's the movie was originally titled Billy the Third, and they had to, they like freaked out in beginning of production because Billy Madison had just been had just finished rapping, I guess, by the time they started this. But yeah, I think the closest that I would compare this to is like a Adam Sandler movie, and I kind of feel like in that way, in the same way that like Adam Sandler movies, I wouldn't necessarily say that any of those or this are like a particularly good film, like from a cinematic experience or whatever, from a technical standpoint or anything like that. But I think what they do have is a lot of heart. And to your point, Elin, I think Chris Farley is the heart of this movie, a little more so than David Spade, obviously. But between the two of them together, like, I think the scenes that work the best, the parts of this movie that work the best, are the ones where they're letting the story kind of, or where they want to take you, serve its purpose. Because I feel like some of the scenes where it's just like gags for the sake of gags don't really work as much. But scenes where like it's relevant to what's going on and it's not out of place, it kind of fits in there. Like I will call out, because the airplane scene in the bathroom, to me, I think you could easily dismiss that as just like a gag scene, but it's like that whole segment of the movie really kind of serves just the chaos of the moment, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
those are the scenes that make this kind of movie. Again, it doesn't surprise me that it wasn't critically well received when it first came out, but that afterwards it was released, because yeah, you get scenes like that you can not only watch a million times and not get sick of them because they're just so funny, but then they're so endearing too, and the lines are so quotable. Like, there's just so many things that work on that level.
Yeah.
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 I know, like it's interesting kind of going back and watching, especially I don't know, when you're dealing with people who were on SNL. I'm starting to realize, you know, seeing these films through, you know, more critical eyes, that a lot of times, because they are SNL alum, that it's just it's they tend to lean into a certain vibe, where it's basically like they probably had a sketch idea, and then they tried to turn it into a full-fledged movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just seems like, you know, this like the kind of Wile E. Coyote things and certain bits, you could call them, that just kind of are sprinkled into this overall story. So yeah, sometimes the bits land so well because just they're phenomenal actors, or just really funny people. And yes, as far as the story is concerned, it's not like, you know, all that necessary, but it's still just hilarious, and you're anticipating that scene coming up and you want to see it. But yeah, from like a cinematic standpoint, it's just kind of this loosely based plot filled with hilarious bits throughout. You know, just kind of like an episode of SNL where it's just
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
sketch after sketch after sketch pieced together as one cohesive, you know, episode or whatever.
But that's what I think works for movies like that, because if you could, you know,
Mhm.
to your SNL point, if you compare it to some of the other movies of SNL stars, you know, like when I'm thinking about it, I think of like Night at the Roxbury or
Yeah.
Superstar with Molly Shannon and stuff like that. Like, those to me feel much more like just a plot contrivance or whatever, just to get some funny sketches in there. Whereas
Mhm.
like Tommy Boy, Billy, well, less Billy Madison, but like Happy Gilmore,
Yeah.
those types of movies, there's like that heart. There was a story there, even if it was like short or whatever, or
Mhm.
the story
Mhm.
came first, and then they added stuff. And I think especially the movies that work best are movies like Tommy Boy, where even the director mentioned several times that a lot of what makes the movie funny, a lot of the scenes that people quote over and over, that people rip off, that he hears out and about, and lines, are lines that they just stole from conversations that he heard David Spade and Chris Farley having, or
Yeah.
jokes that they used to have to drive each other nuts, like the housekeeping, you want
Yeah.
those left? He was like, that was just a thing that they heard at a hotel that David Spade used to do to Chris Farley all the time.
Right.
And so it was like it was a very genuine thing that the two of them kind of shared as friends and as writers on SNL or whatever. And they were like, if it works in real life, it's got to work in the movie. And I think that
Yeah.
that kind of seems true, is if you have people that you're working with, or you have actors, or you have talent that's there, that you know, has that natural charm between the two of them, why would you not make as much use of that as you can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like another example, just recently, I watched The Other Guys with Will Ferrell
Mm.
and Mark
Hmm.
Wahlberg. Um, I I adore that movie, but like
Aim for the
it,
bushes.
it had been so long that I had seen it. I mean, it's not a super old movie,
Right.
but
Yeah,
it
like
had been
2011, I think. Like that.
yeah, something like that, or maybe
Yeah.
even before that. Like, but like, yeah, it'd been over 10 years since I had seen it, and I watched it, and I was like, huh. Because not only is Will Ferrell in it, who is obviously an SNL alum, but Adam
Yes.
McKay, who was also a writer on SNL, was the one that directed it. And again, like for the first time, I could see just yes, there is a plot, but it's mainly just to serve funny bits throughout.
It's to put them in those situations.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, but at the same time though, like I still love that movie because of, Will Ferrell just going off and just doing his Will Ferrell thing. But also like Michael Keaton's character is just so good. But he plays it so straight too. And that's what makes it so funny. Like, yeah, you need actors around them like that.
Well, that's what I think Brian Dennehy does so well with this
Mhm.
movie is he plays it completely straight. His feelings toward Tommy feel genuine, in the movie. He's not an actor in the movie. He's just Tommy's dad. And I think that's what really kind of elevates the movie and even gives it some of that heart that a lot of these other movies are like. I again think of just because you mentioned Will Ferrell, like the difference between Zoolander and Zoolander 2 or Anchorman and Anchorman 2. Like in both of those situations, the first movie is, in my opinion, much, much better and much, much funnier because there's heart in the first version. Whereas like the second one, it almost is like you can tell that it was made because either a studio wanted a sequel to it or they were like, hey, the first one did well, let's make a sequel, rather than being like, hey, I have a really great idea for a sequel, or I have a really, really great idea for Tommy, that kind of stuff. Like David Spade was actually quoted in an interview not too long ago. Actually, I don't remember what the podcast was, but he was talking about how they approached him to make a Tommy Boy sequel, and they wanted to make it about their children, about Tommy and Richard's kids, and that he was going to make a cameo or whatever. And he was basically like, no way. He's like, how can you make a Tommy Boy movie without Chris Farley? Like, he's the heart of that movie. And I agree with that. It's like when you don't have that core heart where you have somebody to, be the contrast to somebody like Chris Farley or Jim Carrey or Will Ferrell or whoever, there has to be a contrast. That's what makes it funny. I think that's what elevates it, is when you have the kind of straight players. If it's a cast full of comedians and nobody plays it straight, I don't think it works as well.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I had a thought. It went away.
I saw it escape.
It just disappeared. You saying that it really brings me back, and I know I'm going to bring up Dumb and Dumber probably more than once here, but the original Dumb and Dumber, they play like Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. Obviously, Jeff Daniels was kind of the straight man of that duo, but they both played it like they didn't know they were stupid. They both played it pretty straight, and the comedy came from watching these guys play it straight. But then you fast forward to the movie, like the sequel that came out, 20 or so years later, and they're both playing these characters, and then they know they're dumb. They're hamming up the fact that they know they're dumb, and it loses any sense of like comedy, because now we're just watching people performing instead of watching these characters go through a story, or go through a situation. And I think that's what it is here. Do I think that there are times where like, Chris Farley or David Spade could have said a line better? Yeah, whatever, but like, I think overall they were still very believable. I mean, I still think about the whole like bees in the car, gag when they're like, they start swerving. He's like, there's no way he's going to think I wasn't drinking, and then like just that whole thing, like all of these little bits that didn't need to be in the movie.
Taught me.
Yeah, a little trick my dad taught me. The whole, getting out of the car to use the bathroom and then him pulling away slowly. Like, what the hell's gotten into you?
I got piss all over my pants.
Right. But I think at the heart of it, it is kind of like a buddy road trip movie in a way, because they are going, the whole plot revolves around them being on the road selling these brake pads. Tommy just sold 500,000 brake. Sorry, just always in my head too, that guy. So like at the heart of it, it's like, okay, the message of the movie is like, he didn't give up, like, which everybody thought he would do, because of how he how his characters been throughout his life, how he's established in the beginning of the movie, and then he ends up and every movie like this has that kind of moment where it's like, hey, we're gonna succeed, and then no, we're not.
Mhm.
So they had it. Rob Lowe's character screwed it all up, and then it kind of comes back, but there's that moment of peril that makes the ending even more, sweet, where you're like, oh, okay, and then
it's like the through line is that classic drama. You have tragedy and comedy, and they're on opposite ends of each other. And the whole, the quote that people say all the time is, you can't have good without bad. You can't have the bad without the good. You have to take them both, because if you don't know how good things can get, then how bad things can get, then you can't really ever show how good things get after that. And I think ultimately, kind of at its heart, Tommy Boy is a coming of age. It's a adult who never really grew up, stepping into the shoes of adulthood, stepping into the shoes of his father, because of tragedy, because his dad died. I mean, that's kind of what kicks off the whole chain of events, is the wedding where his father dies, because without any of that, Tommy has no reason to grow up. He has no reason to become an adult. He has no reason to go on this road trip with Richard and all that stuff. And actually, that was one of the things, I don't know if this is like known or not, but I just noticed it in the movie, and I wonder if I'm wrong, or if it's like actually accurate. But I thought on my second watch, at the end of the movie, I made a note, because at the very end, the scene where I think it really shows Tommy becoming an adult is the scene where he first speaks to the Callahan crew after Zelensky orders the 500,000 auto parts or whatever. But the guy introduces him as Tom Callahan Jr. But at the beginning of the movie, when he first gets his office, the door says Thomas Callahan III.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I was like,
yeah, it's that's mentioned in the trivia on IMDb.
Is it okay?
Because I noticed.
I wasn't sure. I meant to go back.
You're not wrong.
I meant to go back and
you're not wrong.
Point being, that's the moment where he becomes, his father, where he officially fills in those shoes, is when he's introduced as Tom Callahan Jr. And again, I don't think that the comedy in that movie works without that through line, that child growing into an adult, but then growing into, a grown up, if you will.
Yeah. I think going back to the whole junior thing, I don't think that I mean, his dad's name was Tom, right?
Big Tom.
So they just call him Tom. Yeah, Big Tom. So they just call him Tom Jr. Doesn't have I had a friend, or I have a friend who has, his name is Lee and his kid's name is Lee, and so they call him LJ. Junior's not in his name, but Lee Jr. It's just easier, So I think that might be kind of like splitting hairs a little bit. If it's okay, it said Tommy Callahan III, but then he's, everybody just calls him Tommy Jr. or Tom Jr. or whatever.
It only stuck out to me because my dad and my brother are Tom and Tom Jr. And it caused all kinds of problems growing. Yeah, I mean, even now, I'll still get mail for the both of them, and it's neither of them live here, but whatever. So it stood out to me because it was it's Tom Jr. And I'd be when my brother sometimes would call himself Tom Konowalski or whatever, and I'd be like, you're not Tom Konowalski, you're Junior, and I wasn't sure if I was getting it confused, or if it was from, hearing it as a kid and as an adult now, if I was just oh, did they screw that up or no? But yeah. It's splitting hairs.
Yeah.
I
think one thing that this movie does. Hello, Greg. Greg. I said Greg. I'm sorry. The beer is getting to me. Sorry. No, I was going to say the one thing that you were talking about the other guys. Admittedly, I've never been able to make it through that whole movie for whatever reason. I just can never get into it. I don't know if it's Mark Wahlberg just being like, that cannot be your wife. I don't know what's going on. His whole he's
say hi to your mother for me.
Yeah, say hi to your mother. Optimus, we just found a transformer. I don't know what we're gonna do. He's either doing that or the full-on Boston, Departed type thing, which I can't really do here for monetization purposes, but because it's just nothing but the F word. Anyway, what I think this movie does really well is a lot of other movies, especially more recent movies, even the other guys and things like Step Brothers. There's a lot of like, this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and then this happens, right? Like, whereas this movie is this happens, so therefore this happens. Like there's a cause and effect. Like, okay, his dad died, so
this happens because of this.
Yeah, because I mean, there are moments in the movie that are just kind of like they, little things that are thrown in, but a lot of the stuff happens because it's building off of things that happened previously, and I think that's you kind of get that kind of cause and effect, and that's more powerful than just a bunch of little skits or slapstick moments or little funny gags kind of strewn together throughout a movie, when really it's like the plot moves forward because they're moving forward and they're learning.
One of my favorite like sight gags in the movie, and I think one of the reasons it works as well, is the car. Because I think it's kind of like that whole ship of Theseus thing, but I think it's kind of like a allegory to Tommy himself. Like he starts off as kind of like one person, and then through the journeys of the movie, and kind of to what you're saying is because this happens, the door of the car is gone. Because this happened, the roof of the car is now gone. Because and so on. And I think it's like kind of cool to watch as the movie goes on, as the car gets more and more fucked up, that Tommy gets less fucked up. It's almost like I forget what there's that thing about like the it's almost like a monkey's paw thing where there's like a painting or something or a mirror, and I forget what it is, but like the person doesn't grow old because the painting grows old instead. It's kind of like that thing where like as the car gets more fucked up, Tommy actually gets repaired because he's like drawing energy from the car or something. I just think it's cool to see.
Right.
It's pretty funny. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I think there is something to that. As the movie progresses, you see the car and worse for wear, situations, and it all starts pretty much when Tommy arrives with the peanut M&Ms.
Yes, such a good scene too.
Literally kick everything off. It's like, okay, the car's gonna go through this, go through it in this movie.
It'll be fine, Richard. They have a thin candy shell. I'm surprised you didn't know that.
You're the one with the shell.
Your brain has a shell
on it. Shut up, Richard.
So good.
One of my favorite lines from Brian Dennehy, just because again, he's playing the straight man, and like when Tommy's listing all the things that he could put in the mini fridge in his office, and he's just like, anything you want to keep cool, Tommy.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to list everything.
That's so funny.
It
seems like such a throwaway line, but like it gets me.
But he does that multiple times. There's like multiple times where he kind of has to like bring, like Tommy does something stupid, because there's that scene where he's like fighting those hooks on the assembly line.
Right.
And he's like, I had to check the rotary girder.
Yeah.
I'm retarded. And his dad's like, all right, Tommy, come on, like let's go. He's kind of got to like bring him back down to earth all the time.
Yeah.
Son, I didn't tell you had to close your eyes.
You open your damn eyes. I love that whole like. I definitely thought that like the casting of Brian Dennehy, like Derek said, he was that character. Like there was no like playing. I mean, Brian Dennehy is a very famous character actor, but like I mean, he just embodied Tom, like Big Tom. Like I believed like that's his dad. That's. Like I didn't for once question that whole relationship, and I think that that's just kind of a testament to like Brian Dennehy as an actor, but also just as a person. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because, and Derek, you probably know this. Elon, you may know this too. So I love coffee, but apparently not as much as Chris Farley in this. Like while they were making this movie, because he was completely sober for the entire duration of the shoot. However, he developed a new addiction. He would often have 27 cups of cappuccino every day, sometimes 3 cups, like before every scene.
Extra espresso.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I remember watching this interview years ago of like him and David Spade, and David Spade was talking about, yeah, he would like call me, like we get back to the hotel at night and be like, man, I can't sleep. I don't know what it is. I can't like, I just can't like calm down. And David Spade was like, could it be like all the espresso and coffee that you've been doing? No, I don't think it's that. Like, and they talked about how he would do like, sometimes he would just do 3 shots of espresso before a scene, but I'm like, that is a lot of coffee for one person to consume.
Yeah.
Ton of coffee, even for a man that size.
Yes, like caffeine, which when you watch the movie, sometimes when he's like, he goes kind of berserk, I'm like, well, that's partly the caffeine, but I think that's just also his personality. And I do want to mention something that he was notorious for. He did it on SNL. He did it here in the very beginning of the movie when he literally just face plants on the ground and breaks the coffee table.
Right.
I mean, he did that as what was why can't I think of the character's name in SNL? The Van Down
Matt Foley.
Yes, Matt Foley. He would fall into these, the coffee tables and stuff, and he just had this way of falling that, I mean, I think he just took it. Like, I think he was just such a big guy.
He did. It's on the special features. It's on the special features. They actually wanted to have a stunt guy, but he was like, no, I can do it. I can do it. And he just face plants, and then he immediately gets up. No.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
actually,
crazy.
that's another thing too. I had said a little bit earlier about how I think one of the successes of this movie is how they basically like took things from Chris Farley and David Spade and like worked them into the movie because they knew that those things were going to be successful. Those are things that are like that too. The table falling thing, and another Matt Foley thing is the screaming. In the director's commentary, he talks about how like people knew when they like he told them that Chris Farley was in a movie he was directing or whatever. They were like, oh, I love it when he's like screams as the Matt Foley character or whatever. And that's where the scene, the dinghy on the boat with the 3 kids, it was like they wanted to come up with a way to make sure that like there was a scene where Chris Farley was just screaming at the top of his lungs, but they didn't want it to like interrupt any of the like normal, like endearing scenes in the movie. So he was thinking about like a situation that apparently he was actually in, or like one of the writers was actually in, where they were on a boat somewhere and there was no wind, and so there was like kids making fun of him for being stranded in the middle of the water, and he was like, that would be perfect, like let's put that in and we can have Chris scream at him, whatever. I think that is like a compounding reason why that scene worked as well as it did, is because they saw it was something that Chris Farley had already kind of done before. They knew it was part of his shtick, and they went through his toolkit of funny things that he could do, and they found a way to add them to the movie.
That's cool.
There's like so many little things that you read the trivia about, like they were trying to come up with things to do in the movie, like the hood coming up on the cars or driving down the freeway. That was something that happened to one of the crew, like in real life. There was something else like the God, where was it? Like I can't remember. Derek, you may know the whole like bald gag with Richard's character was like.
Oh yeah, because David Spade never wanted to do his hair.
Yeah, well, no, he like didn't want this. Like, he never let the stylist do his hair, and so someone at some point jokingly said it looks like a toupee, and like, wouldn't that be funny? And
4 hours, 4 hours for makeup.
And what's so funny is when that scene comes up, it's almost like they put a filter over it because the makeup was still pretty crude, and you could see the lines on the side here where they put the bald cap and everything. So it just didn't really. It's still funny as hell though, but like it was just funny because it's like they spent all this time and then like there's like a blur kind of beauty filter over the whole shot. But yeah, man, David Spade, like they were all so young too. Like I remember watching like PCU with David Spade years ago, and that came out like before Tommy Boy, and I was like, man, these guys were like 30, 31, like they were young, whippersnappers, but. Yeah, there's just so many like of those little like trivial, like they're like the little things that I never realized about the movie, like the whole I mean, we could do a whole stream about or podcast about trivia of things you didn't know about Tommy Boy, or just an entire episode devoted to it, which is why we're here. That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, right. But like the whole like thing, I'm a maniac, that where he's like Rob Lowe's rinsing him off with the water.
Did you eat a lot of paint chips as a kid?
Yeah, but as a kid, I was always like, is that gas? Like just silly me. But no, they filmed that in like minus 20-degree weather, and like Farley had to wear like a wetsuit, and you could actually see his breath, throughout the whole scene. And I'm like, that's insane. Anything for the scene, I guess.
Yeah, I love I whenever I watch any of these movies, I always look for like the question that's always in the back of my head is like, how did they do that? Or like, and when we talked about doing Tommy Boy, a big thing that I was hoping to enjoy about the movie was the fact that there wasn't this like huge production that went into it. But now after watching it again, like the most recently, there's a ton of production work that goes into this. Like the deer thing. I'm not going to go into the whole like how they got the deer to rip through the car and all that stuff. But even just the fact that like they had to figure out how to do that is so incredible to me. The fact that they had to figure out how to get the car in all the various different states of disarray. The fact that they had to figure out how to, film, because the whole movie was filmed in Canada. So, there's even like a scene where there's like a sign 4 miles to Detroit. But as somebody who was born and raised in Detroit, like it's very clearly Toronto in the background. But like all kinds of those little like production details, I really have a new appreciation for this movie from a production standpoint. The warehouses, Brad, you mentioned the Rob Lowe, ball busting scene or whatever, that they had to get like an empty warehouse and fill it with that kind of stuff just for that scene. And I just, I love thinking about if I was going to make a movie like Tommy Boy, I would have thought prior to watching it again through like that slightly more critical lens, I would have been like, oh yeah, that'd be easy. No problem. We can make a movie like Tommy Boy, no problem. It'll be real cheap. No, there's so much in this movie that is so just very thoughtful. It's very thoughtful. They went through a ton of this stuff. They planned stuff out really, really well. And I think that's why years later, it still makes me laugh and it's still funny.
Yeah. And what's funny is I'm going to probably butcher his last name, but Peter Segal, the director of the movie.
Yeah.
Was so like, there were multiple times he tried to leave the project because he just was like, he was getting fed up with the whole scheduling between, Saturday Night Live and them having to fly in, and just things weren't progressing in a way that he thought. He was not in love with like the script. He actually like, I read he grew a beard to try to disguise himself so people wouldn't recognize him when the movie came out.
Yeah.
Because he for sure thought it was like, this is going to be a massive bomb. Like no one's going to see this, or like it's going to be so like widely regarded as like one of the worst movies ever made that, he's basically like, my career's over. And it's so funny how like we've heard that kind of tale as old as time at this point of all these very famous, very kind of big movies that like kind of came out of nowhere. And I can't remember. I didn't see how like Tommy Boy did at the box office originally, but I think it did fairly well. Because I know like after that, Chris Farley kept getting offers for really shitty movies, back to back, and but it's just so funny how we always hear about this movie almost didn't get made. We stopped production on it for 6 months, and we didn't know if we were gonna. It's so crazy how many things, all these movies that we know and love, go through a very similar like thing of like almost not getting made at all. And then now we have this kind of, yes, Tommy Boy's a comedy, but I would call it, it's definitely part of like cinematic history to me. It's like, to me, there's a golden age of comedy in terms of like things that were made, like especially 90s comedy. Like it's hard to argue with like Tommy Boy, Liar Liar, Dumb and Dumber. Even Liar Liar, I'll throw Liar Liar in there. That was like kind of the last of the big like Jim Carrey movies before he transitioned into the Number 23 and all these other
Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah. One of my favorite movies though, The Majestic. He was fantastic in that. Frank Darabont directing.
I think too though, one of the like if you look at it from the perspective of like people making the movie, I think creatives, Elon, I know, I mean, we talk somewhat regularly on like a almost semi-daily basis now, but I think that like creatives are very critical of themselves. So like
Yeah.
even when I listen to the commentary and I hear Peter Siegel say stuff like, you know, I didn't think this movie was going to work. Like he says that the moment that he thought it might work was when they put the music over, you know, there's a scene in the car where they're singing along to the radio on the way
Mhm.
back after they sell all the brake pads to everybody or whatever. And he talks about when he first saw the initial cut of David Spade and Chris Farley singing along to those songs, he like wanted to quit the movie like permanently right then and there, because he was like, it just doesn't work. It's not funny. It's not endearing. Like he told the editor, like, you could probably just cut all that footage out. I don't know why we filmed it. And then the editor came back with like the initial cut with the music put into that scene, you know, over top of them singing. And he was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like this actually works now. Like this
Yeah,
could,
it's like them
this could,
celebrating. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's like the whole time they're like so tense about what they're doing, because it's like we have to save the jobs of 300 people. You
yeah.
know,
Well,
it's like, okay, we've done it. Bam! Like now we're you know singing to you know REM, and then we only know this part of the song, but we don't know the rest of it, which I think is pretty much everybody. You know, 6 o'clock for whatever. That was
I had to learn that song
anyway.
for a band. I don't know if I could do it like unprompted, but I used to know the lyrics to that. But anyway, my point was that what I think is funny about that thought process of like being very, very critical about that is I get that and I understand it, but it makes me it makes me a little sad that they have to go through all that to get to the point where they're happy with it. Because even like Chris Farley, a lot of people that were interviewed, David Spade talks about it, Peter Siegel talks about it, other people have talked about it on SNL about how critical of himself Chris Farley was.
Yeah,
And a lot of that was because, like, at least with a movie like Tommy Boy or Black Sheep, where he was the lead, he felt like he had to do his absolute best because he didn't want to let down the people working on the movie and everybody who was kind of like, you know, he felt responsible to. And there's like a scene early on where Peter Siegel talked about, like, it's just a cartwheel. Chris Farley does like a cartwheel going through one of the hallways or something. And he
yep.
said
Oh, yeah.
that they
After
did like,
he passes the exam, yeah, he does the
yeah,
cartwheel.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
apparently he wanted to do like 24 takes because he didn't feel like he landed the cartwheel. Like out of everything else that happens in that scene, you know, like I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's kind of just like a throwaway transition scene between him finding out that he got a D+ and Helen Keller got an F. And, you know,
Yeah.
then he runs off to wherever, does the cartwheel, and like nobody would notice that. It looks fine, it comes
Yeah.
off fine. But
Yeah.
apparently he was so like, he got angry. Chris Farley got angry because he didn't think he was doing the cartwheel right. And there's like a bunch of scenes that he talked about, or that, you know, various people in various stages of the movie talk about how Chris Farley would get like really, really down on himself. And it just makes me sad to think that
Yeah.
like a movie that all three of us and probably millions of people revere so highly, that could have caused that for, you know, the director who grew a beard because he didn't want people to see him.
Yeah.
You know, makes me wonder how David Spade felt about it too. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's that.
I mean, if you read a lot about like how Chris Farley thought of himself, like you mentioned, but also like how he treated other people. I'm not saying he treated people negatively, but there was a lot of like jealousy and a lot of expectation. And I think that you know, depending on how he like was brought up and everything, you know, I don't want to turn this into a whole like mental illness or mental like well-being kind of thing, but he was definitely troubled. He was a troubled person overall, and just a lot of different stuff going on, you know. And I think, you know, him being super hard on himself, I think he was also a perfectionist when like he expected and demanded, you know, 150% from himself all the time, but I think he also expected that from everybody else around him. And so when they didn't meet that expectation, which is kind of an realistic expectation even for like oneself, then yeah, which is why when you read about him getting mad at like the director when he didn't want to do movies with him after because he would pick these projects that were frankly terrible. It's like I was telling my wife about this. It's like, you know, he got mad at the director because like Chris Farley wanted Peter, the director, to direct something else, and Peter was like, I'm not doing that. Like that movie's garbage, you know. And he got mad, but you know, I'm like, well, Peter, like a friend of his, is basically trying to tell him like, dude, don't do this movie. Like I'm trying to help you out, man. Like the script is garbage. Like don't do it.
Well, and you mentioned it. You know, oh, sorry.
No, that was it.
I was saying, you mentioned it earlier about how like this was one of the only movies that he was like completely sober on. Like he made sure that, you know, he wasn't doing anything. Although I guess completely sober is not accurate with the coffee information that you shared. But sober, still, yeah. But the idea that like he was troubled enough to where he was always coping through drugs or alcohol or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's a through line that you'll hear from a lot of comedians. Somebody in the chat mentioned Belushi. You know, Belushi's another one that was like that people just found him so hilarious. But then when you talk about him as an individual and how he viewed himself, it's the same types of patterns. It's that perfectionism mixed with a little bit of insecurity and jealousy of others. And it's like, it makes me wonder if those are like requirements of being that level of physical comedian. You know, is it something that you can ever have without the, you know, kind of like what I said earlier about you got to have the good with the bad. Like those bad things that are required to have somebody that's as good at physical comedy as these guys? Because I mean, I think an argument can be made that no, you need the whole package, and unfortunately, it's kind of a depressing package.
Yeah, I know there's that whole saying like, you know, you suffer for your art, and there's part of me that definitely suffers for any type of artistic thing that I do, but I don't necessarily think that like you suffering makes art better in any way. But it can,
unless the purpose of the art is the suffering, which
I mean, if we want to watch Requiem for a Dream, we could suffer through that.
It's like that, but Doctor, I am Pagliacci.
It is such a hard movie to watch. Unlike Tommy Boy, which is just honestly, I think I jokingly said this is like the 400th time I've seen it. I don't know. I've seen it at least 100 times, right? Like over the course of like since it came out in 95. I saw it in the theater. I remember seeing it in the theater with my dad and my cousins, and we just were howling laughing the whole time. And it's just one of those movies like it is one of those, if I'm not sure what to watch or just like want to turn something on
just to make you feel good,
one of those just kind of go to, even if I'm kind of half paying attention, because at this point I've seen it a million times. Although when I rewatched it this morning, I really didn't do anything else. Like I was like I'm watching it, this is my job right now. I have to watch this movie. You guys are forcing me to watch these films. But yeah, Elon was holding a gun to my head as I'm watching. He's like, "You better not turn it off. You better not." Yeah.
Finger guns.
So, but like it is one of those movies where like you can just turn it on and it kind of really does hold the test of time. It has some definite like 90s references in it, and there's some 90s-ish things. I'm sure someone watching it now that is young or be like, where are their cell phones? Like, why didn't they have their cell phones? Like, this is weird, or like a car
the
phone.
Spreadsheet on the computer is probably the
spreadsheet. Why is he looking at a map? Like, he could just Google it, or like Google Map it. And the whole scene, like,
map.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. And he's like 22 miles away. Which that ties into another scene that I quote all the time. It's like, what'd you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have or watch the movie on VHS? Because I don't remember.
Oh, yeah.
If there was a couple scenes. I'm like struggling to think of one that I can think of right now, like off the cuff. But I feel like, were there scenes cut from the VHS version? I feel like there were like small bits of scenes that I didn't remember from, because my cousins and I used to watch it and like quote the movie all the time. So I thought like I had a pretty good grasp on it, but there was, God, I wish I could think of one of the ones that I like thought of while I was watching it. Anyway, I wondered if anybody like noticed any scenes that were cut or extended or anything like that on the. I watched it on Blu-ray, but DVD/Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Nothing stands out.
Nothing that jumped out. No.
No, I mean, I'd have to go back and rewatch the VHS, which I don't even have a way to watch the VHS version. But I don't remember anything being cut. I do remember it being, obviously like at the time, formatted.
Yeah,
its original
pan and scan or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just think about like
I'm not even sure they
had a bunch of scenes that were cut out on, or that either were or weren't in the theatrical release, but then they were on the VHS version, but then they weren't on the DVD release, and then they came back on like later ones, because there's that whole like, I'm Heinz Velvet, trainer of dolphins. That scene is like super cut down on the theatrical release, but it's on the VHS in full.
Oh,
so really?
Yeah,
okay,
and
I didn't know that.
I thought there were Tommy Boy scenes soon, but we should do that one next. That's one of my favorites too.
There's a. I mean, we can. I have it on 4K. Oh, that'd be a fun time to rewatch. I know we're doing Pretty in Pink next, yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We have to. No, I'm just kidding. I have to stare at Molly Ringwald for any extended period of time. I makes me want to hurl. I'm kidding. Terrible. No, I do.
Somebody watching is like, them's fighting words.
Yeah, no, I did. I love Molly Ringwald and all the 80s stuff. All the Brat Pack movies.
Mm-hmm.
But no, yeah, I don't remember there being any. I mean, there's a bunch of additional scenes on the DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff. And like gag reels and things like that, which I always think it's like, I don't know about you guys. I'm a huge fan of like bloopers and gag reels, because I love seeing characters break, especially in like a serious scene or something. Cause it's like, I think one of Elon and I were talking about Barry recently, the TV show Barry.
Great show.
And it's like watching the bloopers of that, because it's such a there are many moments in that show where it's very dark and very serious. And then it's just like, okay, they just break. It's like, okay, like it's like Bill Hader is probably one of he just cannot stop laughing once he starts laughing. But I love watching all that stuff, and there's a lot of bloopers not a ton of bloopers, but enough that I think they had alternate takes too of like the whole him answering the door after he's like, "You want me fluff pillow?"
Oh yeah, because there's one where he's nude.
It completely just from the waist down, but yeah. And there's one that apparently they burned. Yeah, like they burned it because he said something about the CEO or of the like Mrs. Lansing or something, the CEO at the time of Paramount Pictures, and like, yeah, she's not gonna like that very much. So they literally burned the negative of that scene. I'm like, damn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man. I don't know about you, but because I have children, and specifically pretty young children, I've got 2 daughters that are 9 and 11. And there's just something about because we're trying to introduce them to a lot of 90s shows and movies, even 80s or whatever, like stuff that we grew up watching. We're slowly trying to introduce them to it, and just show them more things than just animated stuff or anime and that. And like one of the kind of awkward things, I mean, I think I might have spoken to one of you about it recently, about Kindergarten Cop. But like, because we watched that maybe about a month ago, and there's this scene where
boys have penises, girls have vaginas.
I mean, there's that, but that's funny. I mean, even my girls laughed at that. But like, there's the scene where his partner, the woman partner, is he walks into the hotel, and
her fiance's there.
She's having sex with her fiance, and and he's got to cover up, and he's it's all awkward and stuff, and scenes like that. It's like it's like, I don't know if it was like a prerequisite back then, but it's like, hey, this is the 90s. If it's a comedy, if there's some funny stuff, we also have to have some like sexual scene as well, or something revolving around sex. Like, I don't know if it was like just something you had to throw in because it was a movie that was eventually going to be, put in theaters, but it was the same thing with Tommy Boy. It's like, I would love for my kids to watch Tommy Boy because I love it and my wife loves it.
Full scene.
And yeah, like the whole scene of Richard masturbating in the hotel.
Richard, who's your favorite little rascal?
Yeah. I mean, it's like those types of scenes. It's like so 80s and 90s. It's like, is it really that necessary? Absolutely not. And is it going to be awkward for my daughters? Yes, because they're young. They don't. I mean, they kind of have this idea of what sex is, but obviously they don't. I mean, my older daughter, my 11-year-old, she's actually had some sex ed for the first time like last year or something in school. But other than that, I mean, it's like they don't know about what sex is or anything revolving around it. So like to have those scenes inserted into stuff back in the day, it's like
it is a little and I wonder if it's like, okay, I mean, there's like the list goes on of movies and stuff that had like even like references. Like Big makes a very famous reference like, oh, you want to sleep over? Okay, I get to be on top. As a kid, that just went right over my head. Like I didn't
right.
I was like, he's talking about bunk beds. Okay, cool. As an adult, I'm like, whoa. And then the whole like weird thing about him being like 13, losing his virginity. It's like, this is problematic, But yeah, even like Ghostbusters, that there's that whole like the ghost
dream sequence.
And it's like, what? How do you? So yeah, I totally get that. Where it's like, there's like the whole, Richard masturbating to the girl, which by the way was a friend of theirs, both Chris and David Spade's friend, and that Chris Farley started dating. This is all like drama. This is like entertainment news right here, or the TMZ stuff. But no, it's like reading all the trivia. It's like they started dating behind David Spade's back, and David Spade got mad. I'm like, that. Who cares? Like that was just so funny to me that was like a big long like paragraph trivia post on IMDb. Yeah, it is this weird thing, and I think you may have mentioned. I don't think you were talking to me about Kindergarten Cop, but it's something that I don't.
Somebody else.
Yeah, actively think about. You have other friends. This is unacceptable. But no, it's something that because like my wife and I don't have kids, so it's something I don't actively think about. Until someone like either brings it up to me, or if it's like, oh yeah, this scene's like, okay. Yeah, this is a PG movie from 1986 or 83 or whatever. Like Kindergarten Cop, was it like 1990, I think?
Yeah, very, very early 90s. Yeah.
Anyway,
this is such an interesting conversation to me because my family's European, so like the sex stuff doesn't bother me at all. And if I had kids or whatever, like I remember, what was it, Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool. Like I was so
Come
young
on. I mean, the character's name that she was talking to was Brad. Of course, I remember that scene.
There you go,
guys.
But like even the first movie I think I ever remember seeing was like Terminator, and there's a sex scene in Terminator, and not that it's like gratuitous or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I don't see those scenes as anything troublesome, especially in a movie like Tommy Boy. Kindergarten Cop, I haven't seen that in a while, so I'd have to go back and look. But like, I am actually more surprised that some of the violence that's in a lot of these movies is like way worse, or at least to me, like for a kid to see that is way worse than a kid. Because even in Tommy Boy, like I think it's funny that Richard is masturbating or whatever, but like you don't even see, she like takes her top off, but you don't really see anything except for maybe like a tiny bit of side boob or whatever. And the other shot is like far away, and they use depth of field to kind of blur it out so you can't see her or whatever.
Well, she wasn't even nude. Like on the 4K, you can see it clearly. She's wearing like a body, like a nude colored
Oh,
body,
nice.
like top and bottom. So she wasn't even naked when she jumped in.
There,
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
it was
even if
just
she
like,
was though, it just
who
like it
cares?
seems
Yeah.
it's so non-sexual in like the
Yeah.
context of it, other than Richard, like making it that way. But like for her, it wasn't. She just wants to go in a pool naked. Like cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a kind of blanket statement, not a statement, but like that's just kind of how things have been in the US for a long time, where it's like you can show violence,
Definitely
and
a
anything
US
like that,
thing.
but anything sexual or God forbid you say fuck, or a bad word.
Yeah.
It's like that stuff's forbidden, but you could see someone blow somebody else's head off, and that's okay. Like we're
Yeah.
okay with the violence. It's just so funny. Like whereas like Europeans kind of like opposite. They're I don't think there's a ton of violence necessarily, but like they show nudity. They say all sorts of different things, and I'm like, to me, I never got the whole like separate. Like I was like, just why can't we just watch movies the way they're supposed to be? Like, why do we have to edit them to make them family friendly? When, like, what kid's gonna watch Beverly Hills Cop? I mean, me, but like, what in the right mind is gonna like watch this and be like, he's not saying those things that he's obviously saying, like that I'm hearing,
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess at the same time, you wouldn't have people like Dave Coulier, who's doing Richard Pryor's voice on his overdubs. I don't know if you guys knew that. That was like a random thing I just threw in, but
No.
Dave Coulier from
no.
Full House, Uncle Joey, did overdubbing for Richard Pryor. If you YouTube it, there's an old clip of him on Oprah doing Richard Pryor's voice, and it's unfucking canny.
Wow.
Like, I didn't know that.
Much he sounds like Richard Pryor. Yeah.
Yeah, you to your point though, like I remember the South Park guys talking a lot about, going up against standards and practices or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they would have like, in the background of one shot, it was like a dildo or something, or somebody threw a dildo or something like that in one, and it's South Park. It's fucking construction paper cartoons. It's not even like it's a real person throwing a dildo. And they were like, no, you can't do that. Like we can't show a dildo on screen or whatever. But then it was like, but they could show somebody like literally exploding, or there's a scene with like Man Bear Pig or whatever where he literally like mauls the guy and is just like ripping through people, and they're like, and that's fine. Like, and then the first time that they said that they ever really like got their way, where it was like that's how they knew they made it, was the episode where they said fuck after they got on Comedy Central or whatever. It was like some change happened. I don't remember exactly what the change was, and they literally had like a counter on the screen with how many times they said the word fuck in the episode or whatever. And it was like, but even then they couldn't show like a anatomically correct naked cardboard cartoon woman or something like that, and it's like that strikes me as, to your point, so odd. Absolutely odd.
Totally
it's
backwards.
Yeah, it is. And like we're even stuff like this on YouTube and Facebook and all that, like you can't, there are certain words that they recommend you shy away from, because like the word suicide is like an instant red flag. Sorry, Elon, I just red flagged the video by saying that word. But no, when you're talking about someone who
they have to use unalive now.
And I'm like, that's so stupid. Just say the word. Like, they did this thing, and it's like the whole like language thing, even like saying the word, fuck or shit or whatever. It's like being cognizant of that in a YouTube video to make sure that an at like basically it reduces the likelihood, like the more you say it, the less likelihood that like someone's going to want to put an ad on your video. And it's like, really? Like that's so stupid. It's just a word. Like, I'm not saying, Elon, fuck you. I'm saying, this is fucking stupid. I'm just like, how about like we just normalize using words? And then, we're okay. Like, I think that, and I've explained this, like, like I said, I don't have children, but like my niece is, she's 13 now, but it's like, she doesn't like to use any type of bad language. And so like when we, like her and I will play Minecraft together online, and I'll ask her like, what, I've asked her once, like, why, it's like, there's a difference between saying this word and like, and this, it's like all about context and stuff. But she's like, no, it's okay. Like, I don't want to say that, but it's like, there is a contextual thing to you know, all of this stuff, like in terms of language. And so it's just an odd, like Derek said, it's like, it is a weird thing to kind of have a conversation about. It's like, you know, what is, you know, try to explain to your kids, like, hey, no, that's just a ghost unzipping Ray's pants there, you know, or whatever. It's like, it's
why? Why is he
exactly? Why is it such a taboo thing, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like, just say, oh, that's because of this. It's like, that's what it is. And, you know, my wife, she, you know, she does like have children from a previous marriage, and, you know, and she's like the middle child of 6. My wife is. And so her mom and herself basically have the thing is like, if a kid asks about something, they're ready to learn about it. Like, they're ready to hear about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're not just going to come out and say all this stuff, but they're like, hey, what is this? And it's like, you just tell them the truth. Don't be like, well, when a man loves a woman very much, you know, you just kind of, you know, how do you think you were born, kid? Like,
yeah,
come on.
I think too, though, there is, because I'm like, I think that words have power, but kind of like what you said, Brad, they're just words. So
yeah,
words don't really do much unless they're meant to hurt somebody, you know. Like, I think that a word by itself doesn't really mean much if it's used in a way that is intended to hurt somebody. That's, I think, where words can have that negative power. And it's also why I feel like stuff like trigger warnings, like, I don't have an issue with that, because to your point with the word, you know, unalived or whatever, I don't want to repeat the word. I didn't even realize we could get demonetized or have flags or whatever for that. But, you know, that I can see that triggering somebody who had like an experience, you know, like I know somebody whose parent took their own life. And so I can see if it's, you know, comes out of nowhere that they could be affected in a way for that. So I'm okay with like trigger warnings and stuff like that. But, you know, not to take it back to Tommy Boy, but like, is that any worse than showing Chris Farley's semi-nude butt crack because, you know, he does like a joke or you know the part that you mentioned of them removing the scene because his penis was dangling out or he made some kind of crack against an executive? Like, is that really that much worse than any of that other stuff? I don't think so. I think to your point again, contextualizing it is really, I think, what matters when it comes to those situations. If violence, nudity, cursing, whatever is just gratuitous for the sake of being gratuitous, then I think it's out of place, you know, because a lot of people criticize movies like RoboCop for the violence being gratuitous. And it's like, if you watched RoboCop and thought that the violence was gratuitous, then you kind of missed the whole point of the movie, in my opinion. You know,
part of the story.
Yeah, well, not just part of the story, but it's part of the commentary. I mean, it's kind of the commentary we're making right now. Is violence really that bad, or is it something that, you know, really devalues something like that? No, I don't think so. I think part of the draw of RoboCop is the commentary on violence and the fact that it's like, hey, we can literally show this dude getting his hand, his eyes, his face, everything blown off. But God forbid, you know, the scene at the beginning where he walks into the locker room and there's like a police officer getting changed or whatever, and you see her breasts for like literally a half a second. Nope, that gets cut out on the, you know, home theater release. But the other scenes, like, you need to tone those down, but those can stay, you know, like, it's weird. So silly. It seems so silly. Anyway,
I'm reminded of that scene. The History of Violence. The was it History of Violence or no, Eastern Promises with Viggo Mortensen in the where he's just like fully like nude the entire fight scene, and you just saw everything. And I was just like, there was not one point in that scene where I'm like, this is awkward. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is like I'm imagining, how do you do that? Like on set, that's not just commitment, but that's like focus. Like, you have to, like, you're like, this is part of the scene, part of the character, part of the story. Like, this needs to be as impactful as possible, you know? And I think that there's like, you know, we could talk about this kind of stuff all day. This could be a separate stream altogether. We'll call it the demonetized instant live
Brad
stream
has
podcast.
several other streams planned for us on various topics.
Yes,
Have you
yes,
written
I
all
plan
these
them
down?
all. Yeah, whether you want them or not, they're happening.
They're coming.
But yeah, it's just yeah, it is a weird kind of, like you said earlier, Derek, it's kind of a weird conversation in a way that like not a lot of other countries are feel that way.
It's just interesting to me because I didn't grow up, like, I learned, my first language is technically Polish. I didn't learn to speak English until my brother had to go to school. So like my whole family, it just wasn't like a thing. It literally was not a thing. Even the idea that my parents would like censor movies because we were around wasn't a thing. My dad and my uncle would watch movies every weekend together. And, you know, I'd be playing with my cousins, but if like we ran into the room again, I think Terminator was one of the first movies that I ever saw. And my dad showed us the behind the scenes. He had the laser disc, and on the B side of the laser disc, there was like just a couple small like featurettes about the making of the movie. And they showed, you know, him cutting his arm off or cutting his, and like that kind of stuff. My dad showed us that right away. And it was like, I never really was ever scared of a movie after that. I didn't really like, nudity wasn't a big deal. Violence wasn't a big deal to me.
Yeah.
But I also feel like because of that, like now as an adult and even as a teenager growing up, like I kind of felt like I understood the gravitas of those things. You know, I understood better what it means when, you know, violence happens. I understood, I think, a little bit better what nudity is and like what your self-image is, and, you know, body positivity or body shaming, like that. Like I feel like my parents were having those conversations with us my entire life. It wasn't something that just came up that was like, oh, we should probably talk to you about this at this point. Or it wasn't like I was an adult by the time it was like, oh shit, like,
yeah,
you know, well, it just wasn't a surprise to me. So I think it's an interesting conversation, and especially I can't believe we got to this conversation from
Tommy Boy.
Chris Farley's, from Chris
You're
Farley's
welcome.
butt crack.
We're both like, oh my god, you know, like,
yeah. Oh my god. But even that, like, you know, seeing a dude's butt crack, like, is that really that big of a deal? I don't think so. I think it's hilarious.
Speaking of no one's looking.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great.
It's not a big deal at all.
What else?
No.
What else about Tommy Boy? Any other notable things?
I was going to ask you guys, like, if there's one scene in particular or one bit out of the entire movie, like one kind of instance that someone says Tommy Boy and you go right to that scene in your head. Is there something like that for either one of you or both of you?
I think it's the one you mentioned earlier for me. The what'd you do with the door falls off?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Yeah.
The scene that my sisters and I rewound hundreds of times is when he's talking about how he always screws up a sale, and he's in the restaurant and you're naughty, you're a naughty pet.
Yeah,
you know,
like, we used to do that one too.
His reaction after he kills it, oh, like, yeah, just that.
Oh, actually, I have to rescind mine. I have to take mine back because it's not. Mine is the you're driving along.
Right.
That one with the car. Oh my god. My cousin Amelia used to do that all the time, and it would crack. She had it memorized like word for word verbatim, and so she would like take toys and be like, "You're driving along."
Yeah.
Like, whew, that was close. Yeah,
it's so funny, that scene, because it's like you go into some person's office that you're trying to sell your product to, that have these really nice like model
collectibles,
collectibles, and they're all like in the. You know, that's something I never like really appreciated before, but like the set design of these places and everything, like you look in the background, it's just all model cars, you know, and he's like taking this, and you can see the guy like, whoa, like, don't, you know, these are things that I cherish. He's just like, shun. It's like,
he lights it on fire with the lights
on fire. Yeah.
Guys like.
And I love the part because there's a little moment in there where Richard tries to stop him, and he like brushes him off with
Yeah.
his shoulder, and then he just
Yeah.
keeps going. And I'm like, oh my god, this is so good. Yeah, I would have to say though the scene for me is the one in the that I talked about earlier in the airplane bathroom.
Yeah.
It's him
Oh, yeah.
changing that whole thing, but specifically that for some reason it's like the sound and the arm like this, like
Yeah.
up towards the camera, and it's just like it makes me laugh so much. Like just the overall like the physical comedy, because I think most people have been in an airplane bathroom, and you know that they are not like, I think this one is bigger just for filming, but like they are tiny. Like I walk in there, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm in a closet now and I got to go to the bathroom, you know? And so for him, it just every time I go into like, if I'm on a plane, I have to go to the bathroom, I think about that scene and how like it just starts with him putting his coat on the coat hanger and just falls down.
Breaking, yeah.
Just breaks that, and oh man, it's so good. So good. I love that whole slapstick stuff.
That kind of leads into a question I have. Set design, you just mentioned it. What's your favorite piece of set design in the movie?
Oh man.
Because I think one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, because it has so many of the little things that I think give the movie heart, is the scene where Brian Dennehy first sees Tommy after him and Richard get off the plane, and they come to the Callahan Auto, the warehouse or whatever, and Big Tom is walking the other two guys like down the hallway, and they're talking. They just got a meeting with the guy, and they're walking down the hallway, and the hallway it's because it's kind of like a story setup, but it's also like a character setup too. They have I want to say it's Big Tom's grandfather. Then like
right, all the paintings.
and then the paintings are so you're kind of seeing like the Callahan family history, and then there's like that, it's almost like a saloon door, bar door, barn door thing, and then Tommy's at the end of it or whatever. But they do this whole little moment where like Tommy steps out from behind the thing, and they do like this like bullfight stance where they like butt heads together or whatever. And I love that whole like from start to finish, how much information that scene gives you about Tommy, Big Tom, their family, the structure of the business, how those two guys view Big Tom, how they view Tommy. It's like that 10-20 seconds or whatever is phenomenal to me, both in the set design and just the character kind of building that they do in those few seconds. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I would probably say Michelle's Office, just because she is kind of a central character to the story, and that like the eventual downfall of everything is blamed on kind of her system and the way she doesn't put anything in filing cabinets. So there are little things like I can't really pinpoint because I probably should have paid more attention, but there are little things on her desk. There are little things around, especially like when Rob Lowe's in there, like, basically sabotaging their whole operation. This is like little things that like tell like a bigger story of her character. And I really think that like, it just sets that up really nicely from the very get-go. Like when Tommy like meets her and he's like, Michelle, like, what are you doing? And they kind of have this reconnection from like their high school days. And I just think it's like a super cool set, and the air tube, which is
the pneumatic tube.
I mean, come on! Like, I used to work at a place that had a pneumatic tube, and I was like, this is awesome. Although ours wasn't on all the time, like this one, where she just like sucks it up. But yeah.
Good call out. No, because that's another one. It tells so much of the story without saying anything. And I see that scene all the time, especially the one where, like you mentioned, when Tommy comes back afterwards, after all those orders get messed up, and he's like, why can't you just put your stuff in the filing cabinets or whatever?
Like putting stuff in her box.
Yeah. It's so great because without mentioning anything about that, except for that short little bit, it sets up her as the fall guy for the whole thing. And later on, obviously, we reveal that it's not her fault, but you believe it. You were
ton of stuff written on the whiteboard in the background of that scene, and if you actually look at it, it's like what she was working on when everything went to shit, and like basically how she's like, I don't know how this happened, and it was not her fault. But also I'm like, come on guys, this is a like a great like segue into password protect your stuff. Always lock your screen when you walk away. But yeah, it was just, I mean, God, talk about like an early computer. You know, it's like watching how he's like 2 weeks and he's just like deleting stuff. I love in movies when they, I mean, it wasn't really intended to be like accurate or factual about computers, but I always love in movies where they're like, okay, like I will just type in 2 weeks and that will be, you know, and it's like, that's not really
guaranteed delivery.
Guaranteed
overnight is what it says.
Guaranteed overnight. Yeah. Not just 100,000 units. It was 100 units. It's like,
your dad never sold that many.
Yeah. Where was it? Oshkosh. Yeah.
All right. Elon, what's your favorite set design?
I mean, we already kind of touched on it, but it's the car. Just how it becomes more and more of a just piece of shit as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it also, I love the fact that the deer itself, when it wakes up, it's obviously like just like a puppet or something. If it was made today, 100% that deer would be CGI and it would be stupid. And just like the production, just trying to wrap my head around how they filmed and how they were able to practically destroy all the little parts of the car as the deer is just tearing it to shreds. And like, yeah, that probably took a long time to just come up with the logistics behind it and how to pull it off on film.
Yeah, that's a good example too, or like a good call out, because I don't think most people would probably even consider the car set design, but you're 100% right. It totally is. And there's even a part, the scene where I forget which one of you mentioned it, but the hood flies up because of the oil can in there. Even that. A lot of those scenes are the bees scene where they're driving with the bees. That's not the same car, obviously or not obviously. It's not the same car. On the scene where they're doing the bees thing, it's a stationary car, and they said that they had lights on the ground on roller skates to simulate cars passing by and stuff like that. That they literally were just sending the roller skates over. But the hood scene, they had a separate car, so they had 5 cars total that they used for the movie in various states of repair or disarray. And the scene with the hood was filmed with a stunt driver, but then for the close-up shots, they had a car on a carousel that they were just spinning around so that they could get the actual shot in the, behind Chris and David's heads of the background spinning around where you can see their faces freaking out. And it's like that, the way that had to be designed to feel continuous when there's in reality 3 different pieces going on in 3 different places, speaks to that continuity that they had to keep, speaks to the set design of the car, that I don't think most people would consider it a set, but you're 100% right.
It was funny you said that about the car, because I was going to mention whatever, because I didn't know that they had some type of system or gimbal or carousel that they put the car on, because there's that one shot that, I mean, as a filmmaker, these things kind of like stand out to you, or stand out to me after a while. Like, you just like, oh, that's a green screen, or oh, this is whatever. Like, I could tell the car was in that shot specifically because the car's spinning around, but like the camera's not moving, right? Like it's the everything is spinning around.
It's like hood mounted, like right on their faces.
But like you see it, and it's obviously like done for real. And I was like, is that rear projection? And they just had the car like they're moving like on like a a big like carousel. No, they shot it outside, but they framed it in a way where like you couldn't really see the road, so they could do it somewhere like they could either actually just put like a bunch of fake trees or real trees, like set design basically to make it look like the area they were filming in. I just thought that was really cool, and it's like all those like problem solving things that they did for these types of movies that they just don't do anymore, and it's sad. It's like Elon said the deer would be CGI. That whole scene that we're talking about would probably be some sort of CGI, instead of
green
them
screen
doing
for
it for
sure.
real. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
even like location scouting,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
me, that there's so much stuff about the production part of movies that I don't know if you know this, Brad, or if anybody watching this, but I started my own small production company a couple years back. So whenever somebody asks me to like make videos and stuff like that, now when I watch movies, I think about that stuff so much because day to day when I'm working on things, I'm the one that has to figure out a lot of that stuff. Like, where are we going to film? How are we going to film it?
Yep.
How are you going to solve this problem or that problem or whatever? So now when I think of movies, I'm like, even location scouting is, where do you find a warehouse? I need a warehouse that has a bunch of weird, car manufacturing shit. And even on the commentary, they mentioned that like the scene where they're doing the tour with Big Tom of the car plant where he first introduces their new production line and he's asking the bank for money or whatever. They filmed that in an actual manufacturing plant, auto manufacturing plant in Canada. And initially they had asked the owners of the place, like, hey, there's gonna be dialogue. Are you guys gonna be able to like stop the machines or like quiet them down somehow? And the guy was like, we fucking make car parts, man. This is loud. It's loud all day, and we're not gonna stop production to let you guys say a couple things. So when they filmed it, they're literally just screaming. They're screaming over natural diegetic sound that's actually happening, as it's going on. And if somebody asked me to do that, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could find a location that quickly to film a scene like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or to have Rob Lowe get, ball rammed by a beanbag or whatever with a crash test dummy next to him, like,
which is why I think it's important to mention this too. It's like, I technically don't have my own production company. It's not like an LLC, but I am like a one-man band. So it's like, that's why these movies, when you like, you look at the credits and they have so many people doing all these different jobs, like that's not just, like you and I have to figure that out. Whereas like, oh, that's somebody else's job. The director is like, okay, I need a place like this. And then, the location scout, they may go with the director, but it's like their job to find these locations. So it's like, being a one-man band is both good and bad in a lot of senses, but it is like, you're the ultimate problem solver, right?
Yeah.
Like you are basically tasked with solving every problem a client has. And when you watch a movie, I do think about all of those things, which is why, like, if a boom mic's in a shot, I can see it instantly because it honestly sucks in a way because I can never turn it off. It's really hard for me to turn that part of my brain off, even if I'm seeing a movie for the first time. I'm looking for things that take me out of the experience.
Yeah. Well, and I like that you refer to yourself as a one-man band, because that was kind of the opposite analogy that I was going to use for movies and like the directors. It's like a giant symphony that you're directing, you have a person that does location scouting for you, or you have a person that does this one thing, but that all has to work in concert together. It's not, you can't just have like a great location scout. You have to have a location scout that also speaks the language of what the movie is intended to be, because it's not just about the location, it's what's going to be filmed at the location or what's going to happen at that location too. So it really is,
what time of day, is it outside, is it inside, all those things need to be figured out beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, Tommy Boy's a good example, because the scene where he walks into the bank, he's like, excuse me folks, this is only going to take a minute or whatever. I never noticed it before, but Peter Siegel was talking about how when they were filming it in Toronto, it would get dark at like 2:30 in the afternoon because they were filming it in winter, like you mentioned. You can see their breath in some of the scenes where they're talking. But in that bank scene, it's dark outside, and it cuts between like two different shots where they filmed one in the morning and one at night, because that location just happened to be in a spot where 2:30 in the afternoon, it gets dark outside.
That's crazy.
And it's like, I just filmed, nothing high stakes or anything, but I had a podcast client that I just filmed yesterday, and there was a fly in the room, and I'm like, I had to stop the shooting in the middle of it because we had to get the fly out of there because it kept flying in the shot. And I cannot imagine having like a big movie production with hundreds of people there where I would have to be like, stop, because the blinds are facing the wrong direction, or something about the location isn't right. It's like all this stuff has to work in concert, and it just blows my mind.
Yep. I was so funny. My wife and I were just filming. She does like ASMR like art on her channel sometimes, and we were no, nothing like that. It's like markers and stuff. That's all. Neither of us understand why people watch and like ASMR stuff, but they're popular, so like we do it and it gets views, whatever. But like it's a lot of me with headphones on, monitoring the audio, because we're filming it at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll hear a car. I'm like,
yeah,
right.
And then like, okay, like, continue.
Yeah, there's a train that comes by our podcast studio. I always have to be like, stop.
Yeah. But it's like those things is like planes flying overhead, and I think they did a lot of that in like Lord of the Rings. They did a lot of ADR because one of the locations was right next to like some type of New Zealand airport, or like there was a lot of like flights coming in and out. It's like, guys, we're gonna have to loop all of this, so like let's just film. Like let's just get through this backlog of stuff we got to do.
Yeah, it's so cool though. I mean, even that, the number of people that I've talked to that don't even know about ADR, and the fact that a lot of movies have to redo dialogue and they have to do stuff because of, like, you don't really think about that unless you have to create this type of content, unless you have to create stuff that you need that sound or that audio or whatever. Like, I don't think your average person, when they watch a movie, is like, oh, they definitely had to ADR that audio, or somebody had to re-record that audio, or they'll point out, I've seen a lot of like on IMDb, because they always get tagged as like goofs, incorrectly regarded as goofs or whatever, where it's like the person says something and then like they turn their heads, and they're like, if they had really turned their head, you wouldn't be able to hear them speak that clearly. And it's like, yeah, they did that because otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear anything that they're saying. Like,
that'd be a Christopher Nolan.
This is not
movie.
a Christopher Nolan
movie. They're on a boat, man. You shouldn't be able to hear that.
You're not supposed to hear that. It's okay, whatever.
We have the technology. We can make the audio clear.
We can make the audio dynamic and clear and give you an excellent experience. No, I don't want any of that. What I want you to do is I don't want to be able to hear whatever they say. Like, just that's my intent. It's like, why though? Like, but yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that. Like a lot of people. I remember talking to a coworker many years ago, and she did not realize that there was like orchestral scores in movies. Like, she didn't know what I meant when I talked about music in movies, and I was like, she's like, you're talking about like songs? Like, no, like the actual score that like creates the emotion that you feel when you watch a certain scene. And it was just like completely blew her mind when I was like, there are musical cues that go like run throughout the movie that bring you back to the beginning of the movie, or make you feel a certain way, or connected to a character. And she's like, but why? I was like, I'm done talking to you.
Well, even
going nowhere.
The scene that I mentioned earlier, like, I wonder how many people realize that when they film the scene of them singing in the car, whether it's End of the World as We Know It, or what's the song called, Eres Tu, or whatever it is. That music is not playing on the radio as they're filming. They're singing it essentially a cappella with cue cards with the lyrics, where they're like, okay, now say this, or scenes where like people are in a bar dancing and there's two people having conversation. There's no music playing there. If you ever look at movies where there's like a song that's just kind of like a generic bar song playing in the back, watch the people dancing. If not my number one gripe, but one of the gripes I have with like watching some movies of that is like when people don't dance in time together. It's like, really, the production couldn't put like a click track on so that people were dancing to the same beat or whatever. Like, just watch people dancing in movies and you'll notice that sometimes they're not dancing to the same beat, or they're not even doing the same moves that kind of like fit together in time. And the scene in Tommy Boy is one of those. There's no music playing. That's added in post. Like,
they may play it beforehand to get a timing reference to go, okay. But it's like, it's the same thing when, you have like a restaurant scene and all the background extras are having conversations, but they're all literally doing this.
Right.
And like, if you watch some of them, oh my God, there's a famous like extra in the church in the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse that she's just having the time of her freaking life on this set. She's like,
In the church.
Yeah, just it's the very beginning of the movie.
Oh, at the
after
wedding.
he wakes up, yeah, the wedding, and she's like, I was like, they did like 10 takes of that, and that was the best one because the other one, there's moments where she looks right in the camera. She's like, and she'll just so funny. Yeah. Yeah, it's just it is weird when you talk to people or you realize that like a lot of people don't know just how movies are made or even care.
Mhm.
And I'm like, is it their job to care? I don't think so. You know, like I question that. You know, it's like, okay, if you want this movie to appeal to like a massive audience, it's like it's not really their job to care about like, oh, you know, what was the gaffer doing up on the ladder over there, you know, like
Yeah.
with his butt crack hanging out or whatever, or why was there a lighting change or what. It's like they shouldn't have to think about that because then I mean for us like us guys, like we think about that stuff because we enjoy it, like we enjoy how movies are made and the whole process. But like for most people it's like as soon as it takes them out of it, that's it, they're done, like they're like the movie's over.
Yeah, it's just surprising to me that a movie like Tommy Boy, because again, if you're talking about a movie like Lord of the Rings, that I think anybody clearly
Yeah.
at some point has to realize that like, wow, they had to get 250 horses or, like they have to create something. But like Tommy Boy is like an everyday type of movie. Like it feels like a movie that you could just go out now with a camera, or back then with a camera, now with your phone or whatever, and that you could just like film that and it might be easy. But it's not. There's still so much time and effort and thought that goes into crafting these places and these situations. And there's even like a silly little shot that I was kind of impressed by right after the funeral, or actually it starts at the funeral, I guess, or just before the funeral, where Big Tom is laying on the ground, and then it cuts to them all kind of like staring over his body.
Oh, yeah.
And the camera just kind of flips around, and then now they're at the funeral and they're standing over the coffin, and Tommy puts a flower on there.
Yeah.
And I was like, that shot is really cool. And then it continues to a shot of Tommy sitting on the loading dock of Callahan
Right.
Auto. And it's just like a, slow pan, but it kind of shows like the Callahan Auto Parts banner. And then behind it, you see the whole town of Sandusky with all these closed shops. And it's like, I was just really impressed with that from both a production standpoint, but also like a storytelling standpoint, how much those scenes tell you about Tommy, about the relationship, about where they're at, about
no
what's
dialogue
going on. Yeah,
other than the priest or whatever saying the final words, and you have the bagpipe, like music playing in the background, and
also wasn't playing that was added in post.
Right. A lot of this stuff, it's like you're kind of winging it when you're shooting it. You're like, okay, I hope this works in the end. We have an idea, but like we hope it works. Yeah, it's one of those things where like a lot of people, I'm sure in a lot of like action movies, they have no idea what song or what music or epic music, like they're being recorded in slow-mo, which by the way feels ridiculous when you're doing most of this stuff in these movies, right? Like the things you're required to do, it's like you feel ridiculous doing, but then all of a sudden it looks cool on screen. Like it's like, okay, crazy.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me at all that Peter Siegel thought that it would be a flop, or that it would, that he didn't want to finish it. Cause I can see a ton of those scenes just, watching the dailies or whatever, or watching what you've recorded and being like, man, this does not work. This is going to be so dumb, or this is not going to be funny, cause it's like, it kind of speaks to, I think when movies do it poorly is when you see stuff where they add like the zany sound effects to try and make something funny. And it's like, if you need to add that kind of stuff in there, I think maybe you should, like it's one thing for sound effects or things like that to complement what's going on. But if you need that to make the scene work, then it's like, I don't know if you're going down the right path.
You've failed already.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, gentlemen, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. So we should probably call it. I don't know. Unless you have any other topics that just came to mind.
Nope. No. Just recap. I really enjoyed Tommy Boy, and maybe not as much as some of the other SNL stuff that has come out. Like Ghostbusters is a hard one to top. That's a bunch of, you know, classic SNL people, Blues
Yeah.
Brothers. But it's up there for me. I definitely give it at least a 7 or an 8 out of 10 in terms of it as a movie. And again, I really tried to look at it this time from the eyes of somebody that wasn't trying to be nostalgic and trying to take off those rose-colored glasses, but it still made me laugh, and I don't think that it could do that if it wasn't the movie it is. So
yeah, and I'll just say, like, I totally just realized I watched the 1975 film Tommy, not Tommy Boy. So this whole, we got to redo this, guys. No, I mean, Tommy Boy holds up more than I thought it would. Not that I questioned it, but like, it's, in my opinion, it is part of the golden age of comedy between the 80s and 90s. There aren't many movies these days that are made this way, or if any movies are made this way anymore. And I think it just, things like Tommy Boy, Billy Madison, a lot of the SNL stuff, Wayne's World, even Coneheads. Like, I love Coneheads. Like, there's just so many. Night at the Roxbury. It was a different time for making films, and I think that a lot more effort at the time was put into movies that were maybe today are just kind of cash cows, you know, made on name alone.
Yeah.
This, you know, they were taking chances, and I think it definitely paid off. So,
fun fact: David Spade used to be a deaf, dumb, and blind kid who played a mean pinball. Just kidding.
And on that note,
I gotta go.
Come on.
I'm kidding.
Tommy Boy.
So thank you to all who participated and tuned in live. Thanks for those
No parting
who are
thoughts from
listening.
you, Elon?
Huh?
No
He's
parting
doing
thoughts?
his parting thoughts. You interrupted his parting thoughts.
No, I mean about the movie. He asked us for.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
it's it's up there for me as well. Even today, I'd probably give it a 7 or 8 out of 10. Not only because, I mean, obviously the nostalgia factor fits into that
10.
rating, but I mean, like I said, I could definitely see, you know, just like, we're going to throw in these nonsensical bits just to make you laugh that don't really have anything to do with the storyline. But all that being said, it still has a heart to it. And Chris Farley is that heart, and he pulls it off. I mean, he's definitely, I would have loved to have seen where his actual acting career would have taken him, because I have no doubt that his acting ability would have just gotten better and better and better, like Adam Sandler, you know, Uncut Gems and things like that. So yeah, R.I.P. Chris Farley.
R.I.P.
And but yeah, it was really fun. I enjoyed watching it again for first time, and man, I mean, honestly, it's probably been at least 20 years since I had seen Tommy Boy. So yeah, that was fun. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me and having this conversation. Once again, join our Substack newsletter, and that way you can be eligible to win a giveaway, a 4K Blu-ray giveaway, for those of you who love physical media like we do. But we also offer an Amazon gift card. If you don't have a Blu-ray player, there's no point in us sending you a Blu-ray copy of whatever movie we're talking about. But yeah, we're trying to figure out how to give members some extra perks, because we would love to have some paid membership tiers as well on that Substack, possibly Patreon. I don't know. We're still kind of figuring that stuff out. So yeah,
if you guys have suggestions, or if there's stuff you want to see, let us know
for sure. Like, comment on this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a comment. You can also comment on our newsletters from Substack. Yeah, we would love to get your feedback on how we can give more incentive to you as a member to possibly, yeah, to give us money.
We just love movies, and we want to be able to talk about movies with you guys. I think, Elon, you said, when we initially started this, that it was like a book club for movie nerds.
Yeah.
And I like that description, because that really kind of feels like what this is, which Pretty in Pink is the next one. So if you do
Correct.
subscribe to the newsletter, you can get a copy of Tommy Boy or a copy of Pretty in Pink.
Yeah. So yeah, it's every 2 weeks. So we'll see you again in 2 weeks, Tuesday, for Pretty in Pink. Thanks again for joining us. And thanks if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform or tuning into this on demand on YouTube. So we'll see you next time, folks. Peace out.
Peace.
Bye.
Love you guys.